Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. Today's a very strange one, because we have two big Star Wars topics that make it feel like it's the 1980s again. Because we're talking about Spaceballs, that's right, Spaceballs, and the future of Luke Skywalker. What a great time to be alive. So, let's begin with Spaceballs. Spaceballs 2 is officially coming in 2027, and we had our first teaser trailer for it, a hilarious opening crawl, and then a message from the director himself, Mel Brooks, who is reprising his role at the age of 99 as Yogurt. You Americans say yogurt, I say yogurt, tomato, tomato, all that jazz. But not just Mel, they managed to get Rick Moranis back. Do you realize how incredible and kind of ironic that is? He said no to like everything else, all the modern Ghostbusters, but this, Spaceballs 2, he's returning for. I'm a big fan of Star Wars parodies. I was too young to be around for the original Spaceballs, but my personal favourite parody is either Robot Chicken or Family Guy's trilogy. But the new opening crawl for Spaceballs is incredible. It tells you how much has happened in Star Wars and pop culture since the first film, and how much has changed. The world needs this right now. May the Schwartz be with you in 2027. And let me know in the comments if you want to see a Star Wars Meg review of Spaceballs 2. But let's get on to the main Star Wars news of the day. So there's a big report going around that Mark Hamill is quitting Star Wars for good. After Lucasfilm killed off his character in the sequel trilogy, after he helped with The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, the deepfake algorithm and all of that kind of thing, he said he's now done. And the way it was reported by various media outlets is that this was the end. Mark is putting his Star Wars boots up and saying, that is the end, finished. At the time, I advised you to take the comments with a pinch of salt, because the media outlets who reported on this were only focusing on half of what he said, not the full picture. It's so easy to take one or two sound bites out of context, sensationalize them, and miss the point. Mark Hamill was not making an official announcement, and he clarifies that in a new interview. He said he thinks it's time for Lucasfilm to focus on the next generation of characters, to move away from the Skywalker saga. And I said, the way Mark worded it didn't sound like an official announcement, just his own opinion on what Lucasfilm should do for the future direction of the franchise. And I really don't think this is the end for Luke. I think if you're talking about the Mandoverse, Dave Filoni's future movie, they're gonna bring him back in CG form or deepfake, the way they did in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. And even if he were to come back as a Force ghost in the Rey movie, Mark can't reveal anything. He said this kind of thing before, but now he's directly responded to the rumors that he's quitting Star Wars for good. His response is rather telling. Let's take a look.
I don't want to make a big pronouncement like this is my decision. I'm just saying that it really felt like a conclusion. My character was given complete closure. I died, ironically, by overdosing on the Force, I might point out.
So do you notice the hesitation? He's not just going to come out and say, I'm not going to do it. I think Mark is happy to take paychecks if it means his character gets another cameo or two, and I don't think he's opposed to him returning in the way he did in Mando. If he was definitively quitting Star Wars and he was sure about it, he would have responded to this reporter by saying, "Yep, I'm done." It made a good headline, but that wasn't the full truth. He was just saying, it's time for Star Wars to move forward. And in a sense, I think we need to go far into the future. Star Wars Starfighter I think is going to be a fantastic start to that. Just launch ourselves way beyond Episode 9 and give us new protagonists. Ones who we can grow with. Ones who maybe at first the fandom isn't too fond of or has reservations about, but just like Ahsoka Tano, when you go on those journeys with them, when you see them evolve, fans get on board.
Skywalker trilogy was over. It was a whole new era for them. George gave them this amazing canvas, the entire galaxy. They can do westerns, mysteries, comedies, whodunits, anything within that realm of the Star Wars.
So it's interesting he talks about all of the things Star Wars could do. The amount of genres that now make up Star Wars are pretty huge. We don't need to rely on the Skywalkers. We don't need to rely on Luke. And some say, if you bring back Luke, time and again, you're just reopening the wound, even if it's during the Mandoverse. Because fans are thinking this is going to lead to Luke on Octo Island. This is going to lead to Jake Skywalker, the defeated Luke who seemed so out of character compared to where he was at the end of Return of the Jedi. A lot of time has passed, I'll grant you that, but a hopeless Luke who doesn't see a way back, that's all fans are going to think about. And that's the reason a lot of fans say no matter what Star Wars does now, no matter how good Andor Season 2 was, in a way the brand is never going to be the same after the sequel trilogy. Their only hope, I think, is to just steer clear. Or if you are going to do something with Luke, Let him breathe away from Mando, Grogu, and Ahsoka. It was great he was part of those stories for a bit in Mando and Book of Boba Fett, like I said, but why not have his own adventures, either in an animated show or a new Jedi Order show? You'd think it'd be an easy win. But now Mark talks about the projects he does like.
And they're doing so well. I love Rogue One, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. I just think it's time. I had my time. I'm really appreciative, but I'm really looking to the future for all these new projects.
I can't imagine we're going to have all of these movies with Rey, because it's not just the Charmin Obey-Chinoy one, there are a couple of others. There's the whole Kinberg trilogy. I can't imagine they're going to have all of those movies and have no Luke as a Force ghost.
But I do know when I mention anything about the space movies, it gets extra scrutiny. And then I saw headlines, Mark Hamill quit Star Wars.
And he talks about being scrutinized whenever he's asked about Star Wars, but that's what he's best known for. When you think of Mark Hamill, you might think of the Joker and some of the other work he's done, but Star Wars is usually the first thing that comes to mind. Star Wars is his legacy. I know some fans have issues with some of his political views and some of the things he's come out and said, but I think if they have wider plans for Luke, they should just recast. Skip the dodgy deepfake. It's gotten better over the years, but when you have someone like Graham Hamilton, who was the physical performance for Book of Boba Fett, if you watch the behind the scenes, he's great even without the effects. And then, he gives us a really interesting idea which I'd like for them to explore.
I'd like to see a movie set all in the Force Ghost realm. I could have conversation with Alec Guinness and all the...
Now you're giving them ideas.
An entire movie or TV show set in the netherworld of the Force. Now there's an interesting concept, because usually when we're talking about Force ghosts, they're always a tool, at least that's what George Lucas saw them as, for the living Jedi. So in the case of Luke, it was Obi-Wan then Yoda, and for Ahsoka it's going to be Anakin, and for Rey it's Luke. But he's right, it'd be an interesting idea if you had Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker's Force ghost, interacting with Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon's Force ghost. And like he said, Alec Guinness, but unfortunately he's gone, so it'd have to be Ewan McGregor. I think the closest we're going to get to that is in Dave Filoni's Ahsoka Season 2. But of course, Luke is still alive by then, so he's not a Force ghost. But aside from Anakin, we might see Obi-Wan's Force ghost, we might see Qui-Gon Jinn's Force ghost. And returning to the original point, I don't believe Mark Hamill is well and truly done. I also get the sense with Mark that he's still a bit upset about the way the sequels turned out. He's given a lot of compliments to the recent shows. Not The Acolyte, don't know if you noticed that, but I think he's still salty about the Jake Skywalker thing. And here's another suggestion, just one that is made in jest. He could return in Spaceballs 2. The long-awaited sequel to Spaceballs is coming in 2027, and maybe, just a light-hearted cameo, could be Mark. And I suspect one of the main reasons he would keep saying yes to helping with Mandoverse appearances, even if it is just archive footage and deepfaking, is because he gets to see what Luke could have been like post-Episode 6. Had the sequel trilogy been made when these actors were much younger, or had Disney gone in a different direction? There are fans who say, it's ruined, it's over, even if you want to bring Luke back, we're just going to be reminded of Episode 7, 8 and 9, but I want to know what you guys think. Do you want to see Luke Skywalker return? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.